And now it's time for the TDN Writers Room Weekend Preview, brought to you by Three Chimneys. I got an idea, guys. Let's take a deep dive into all the stakes races that are being run this weekend, and let's extend the podcast to, what would that take, about 6 hours, something like that. This is a weekend to get so excited about, because look at these numbers. There are 24 graded stakes races being run this weekend, 13 win-in-your-in races, and 9 grade ones. This, of course, is the last big shebang before the Breeders' Cup come Sunday morning. Actually, I would say come Sunday afternoon, after all the big races are run. We'll have a pretty good idea, at least from the American horses, who's going where and what races. But you know what? I'm more interested, perhaps. Well, I'm interested in all these races, but the ones I'm really looking forward to are the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic out at Aqueduct and the Beldame. And the news broke this weekend that Warlike Goddess is going to go in the Joe Hirsch. And it looked like kind of just a ho-hum race. Gufo's in there. Obviously, he's a very solid horse in this division. But I think Warlike Goddess will really spice things up. And Bill Mott, is the way he's been campaigning this mare, it's very interesting. This shows why he's a Hall of Famer. He thinks the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare turf is too short for her at 1 mile 3/16, wants to run her in 1.5 miles against the boys in the Breeders' Cup turf. So why not take on the boys beforehand in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic? Now, we record this before the entries are out, before the PPs are out, before we have the morning line. But Randy, I think she's as good, if not better, than any of the boys in this marathon turf division, at least in the U.S. I don't know what the boys are going to bring over from Europe, but right now I give her a big chance in both Saturday's race at Aqueduct, Belmont at the Big A, as well as the Breeders' Cup. I think Mott is playing his hand very sharply here.
Oh, I think she is the best 1.5 mile turf course in America of either sex. And I think she's going to be a leading contender for the Breeders' Cup turf. Of course, the Europeans typically dominate that race, so we'll see what they bring over. But her loss in the Flower Bowl in her last start at Saratoga, I think she lost nothing at all in the way of stature for that defeat, because she had the most god-awful trip, a horribly, horribly slow pace. And then she was in traffic and couldn't get extricated until it was too late. Despite the fact the pace was so slow, she came charging up late and just failed to get up. So she lost nothing in defeat there. Now, Gufo's a nice horse. They both have similar running styles. They come from well back in the pack. So it'll be a nice test for Warlike Goddess. And also, both horses are maybe not as much as it would be if the race were run on dirt, but they are somewhat pace dependent. And looking at the list of probables for this race, there aren't a lot of confirmed speed horses in here. I mean, Chad Brown, of course, is always going to be tough to beat. He's got a couple on the probable possible list, Ad Homo and Rock Emperor. But, Warlike Goddess, even with very little early speed in here, I think is going to be the horse to beat.
Absolutely. I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to hear the conversation between Joel and Bill Mott after the last race. And I mean, Bill's not going to tell Joel what to do. He's not that kind of guy. But, you're riding the 1 to 5 favorite. There are many different ways to win a horse race and many different ways to lose and only one way to win. So it'll be interesting. But I think we'll see perhaps a little bit more of a productive ride from Joel this time.
And the other race I'm looking forward to at BAQ, BAQ, the racing form abbreviation for this meet, of course, is the Beldame. Because, Nest has been a little bit overshadowed this year because she is a filly, of course. And, all the hype has been for Flightline, and justifiably so, and then Epicenter in the male division. But let's not forget how good she is. And Todd Pletcher is dividing up his 2 big guns for the Breeders' Cup Distaff, with Malathat going Sunday in the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland. And Randy, Nest is turned into obviously the best 3-year-old filly in her division. I think it's possible I wouldn't say it's possible, I say it's quite likely that she's already wrapped up the 3-year-old filly Eclipse Award. And I also give Pletcher credit. He's one of the trainers that isn't ducking all these training up to the Breeders' Cup. We're not going to run after Saratoga. He ran Life is Good in the Woodward. He's running Malathat in the Spinster. He's running Nest in the Beldame. Those are his 3 biggest guns among many for the Breeders' Cup when it comes to Keeneland later on in November, the first week in November. So, she's always, right now, it looks like a small field. I don't think she'll be 1 to 20 like Life is Good, but she'll be a huge favorite in that race. And she's exciting anytime she shows up.
Oh, to me, Bill, right now, if you were to make a line for the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and it looks like a pretty solid race, I think Nest would have to be the favorite. She has been absolutely dominating in her last few races. She started off the season good as a 3-year-old filly, obviously, and she's just gotten better and better and better as the years progressed. She's got tactical speed, so she can maybe avoid some trouble early in a race. You know, she's got that sort of ability to be wherever her rider wants her to be and to take advantage of a slow pace or sit back a little further in case the pace is fast. And looking at the Beldame, she definitely looks like a heavy favorite.
Yeah, I basically predict maybe a 4-horse field for those facing Nest, and she'll be 1-9, and she'll probably park. She's actually a really cool filly to be around. She's not an overly big filly. Like sometimes you think these fillies, especially that run in the Belmont, are massive, and she's not. She's very feminine. She's got a dainty way of going. She's just a pure racehorse. She's an absolute racehorse. If you look it up in the book, you'll find a picture of her. She's amazing.
It'll be interesting, too. They ran in the Belmont and they, for just a minute, gave some thought to running in the Travers. I assume she's coming back at 4. Most good fillies and mares in this day and age do come back as 4-year-olds. I wonder if they'll try the boys next year. If they pick the right spot, I would love to see that pull a Rachel Alexandra.
Well, she's obviously good enough. Especially if she continues on this path of improvement, right? I mean, typically you see 3-year-olds improve toward the end of the year, but not always. Sometimes they're so precocious, and she was good early in the year that they basically stay on the same plane throughout the 3-year-old year and they don't improve. Nest is one of those horses that started good and now she's gotten better and better. And I think if they do choose to run her against the boys, I think she'd be very competitive. This TDN Riders Room in the weekend preview is brought to you by Three Chimneys. We heard from Tim Martin talk about his sensational 2-year-old Tyler's Tribe, who's an unbeaten 5 for 5 right now. Where Tyler's Tribe is a son of Three Chimneys stallion Sharp Azteca, who currently leads this class of first crop sires in North America with 27 winners already this year. Furthermore, in the upcoming Claiborne Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, Sharp Azteca has a potential starter there in Honed, who was second last out in the Grade 3 Iroquois Stake. And another Three Chimneys sire, Funtastic, might be represented in the Breeders' Futurity by Funtastic again. We'll be right back for part 2 of the weekend preview after this message from Three Chimneys.
Here comes Taba. Taba in the center of the track with good-looking strides, squares off with Cyberknife. Cyberknife takes the lead. Taba going with him. These two in a thriller. Cyberknife just in front, and Cyberknife has won the TVG.com Haskell over Taba. Jack Christopher finished third. The running time 1 minute 46.24 seconds.
Come dream with us at Three Chimneys.
Well, welcome back. This is the weekend preview brought to you by Three Chimneys. Zoe, a lot going on out at Saturday at Santa Anita. 2-year-old races in the lineup with the American Pharoah and the Chandelier. Surprise, surprise, Bob Baffert will be front and center. What do you know about, first of all, the American Pharoah?
Yeah, well, Bob Baffert going to be having at least 3 in there. We mentioned the 3 amigos earlier. His trio, or maybe he's got 4 in there, will be led by Cave Rock, a son of Arrogate, who is undefeated. He's won his last 2 by multiple lengths. And it's not often that we talk about a son of Arrogate that actually looks like Arrogate. He moves like Arrogate. He just had a really good work. You can catch that on xbtv.com. And he definitely does appear a horse with a very bright future. We'll have the Grade 1 Chandelier as well, a win and you're in for the juvenile fillies. Looks like Baffert may lead the roster with home cooking in there for him. And of course, the Zuma Beach. And let's just not forget the turf races. We have the Grade 1 Rodeo Drive as well, a win and you're in for the filly and mare turf. So a bunch of really good races this weekend at Santa Anita.
Randy, how good are these Baffert horses? They're fast, aren't they? Which again, it goes without saying.
I mean, K-Rock especially. I mean, his first 2 races were just off the charts. Buyer speed figures of 101 and then a 98 in the Del Mar Futurity, right? I mean, he can run fast early and keep going. And Baffert is also very high on National Treasure, right? He wanted to run National Treasure at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity. That was his early plan. And he thought he could win both races this weekend. But because the purse money at Santa Anita is not as good as the purse money at Churchill Downs and Kentucky Downs and Saratoga, he was afraid. He was told by the Keeneland Racing Office there was a pretty good chance National Treasure wouldn't be able to get in if in case the race is oversubscribed and it comes down to career earnings at Keeneland. So he called an audible, opted to keep National Treasure there in California for the American Pharaoh, but he thinks he's in with a big shot as well.
Zoe, an interesting horse in there says Jazzy, he's a maiden, but he's got a big buyer figure, cost $3.5 million at the sales. He's got to have a shot too, doesn't he? I mean, this horse a maiden winning a Grade 1 race in this case would not be a surprise.
I mean, basically, we're talking distance. He's a son of Bernardini. He's going to get better as he goes longer. Gary Young bought him for Zidane. Everyone got carried away that day at the sale and paid an awful lot of money for him. But anytime Baffert runs a maiden in a graded stakes race, you really have to pay attention. Didn't American Pharaoh break his maiden in a Grade 1 race?
Don't know. You threw me a curveball there. I'm not really sure. All right, so let's head out to Keeneland now. And last but certainly not least, what a big weekend of racing, the opening week of the fall meet at Keeneland. And so many big races, we're not going to have a chance to talk about all of them. You've got the Breeders' Futurity, you've got the First Lady, you've got the Coolmore Turf Mile. Sunday, you've got the Spinster Stakes. We talked about that earlier. The race I'm looking for, and this is always a really good race, both from a betting standpoint, because it gets a big field and fairly wide open. And also from just a quality standpoint is the Coolmore Turf Mile. You've got Ivor, who ran second last time out behind Modern Games in the Woodbine Mile, the Rico Woodbine Mile. Some like at Hot Brown coming off a win in a stakes race at Kentucky Downs. Casa Creek coming off a win in the 4-star Dave. Santon, the Arlington Millionaire winner, coming into there. Randy, that race is going to be loaded. Your thoughts on what's going on at Keeneland this weekend?
Those horses, and if Smooth Like Straight makes the trip east for trainer Mike McCarthy, I mean, he's a seriously legitimate Grade 1 miler as well, who has good form in past races in Kentucky. So with those horses, Ivar, I mean, I know Casa Creek is running really, really well. He's on a 2-race win streak at a mile in graded stakes races for Belmont. Ivar's last race, running second to Modern Games at Woodbine in the Woodbine Mile, I thought was sensational. He got off to an even slower start than usual. He was 4 wide around the turn following Modern Games in that race. He fanned even wider at the top of the stretch. He was pushed out at about the 3/16 pole when William Buick came out for room on Modern Games.
It didn't elbow anybody, did it?
Yeah, he didn't elbow anybody, but he didn't make his way out. He did bull his way out. But he was blown away by Modern Games, of course. Right. But Modern Games is going to be, right now, I think it looks like he's going to be a pretty solid favorite for the Breeders' Cup Mile. So to still run second in a good number for Ivar in that race, given the way his trip went, I think he's set up to run well in here. And he won this race 2 years ago, back in 2020.
Yeah, Paulo Lobo really knows how to lead those good horses over for the stakes races at Keeneland. He's stabled down there. He was in Southern California for an awfully long time, and now he's stabled on Rice Road, and he's really had a very productive meet. Each and every meet, he seems to win a graded stakes. Am I crazy? But does Paulo Lobo not win a graded stakes every Keeneland meet?
The 2-year-old races are also going to be front and center, guys. You got the Alcibiades on Friday and the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity on Saturday. The Breeders' Futurity, I mentioned, National Treasure is not making the trip. Baffert called an audible and is putting Newgate on the plane along with Carmel Road to come to Keeneland and face hopeful winner Forte, who was flattered, of course, by the win in the hopeful by Chad Brown's horse on Saturday. So you've also got a horse in there by the name of Lost Ark from the Todd Pletcher barn, who is a half-brother to Nest, and who is also in very good form right now. Alcibiades, fun and feisty, looked really, really good, winning the Pocahontas. Figure wasn't all that good, but visually, nice move on the second turn, very impressive. So those races are interesting to me as well.
Yeah, once again, it's a spectacular weekend. Once again, here are the numbers. 24 graded stakes races, 13 win in your ins, and 9 grade 1s, all major preps for the Breeders' Cup. So it should be a fascinating and very exciting and very meaningful weekend on the American racing scene this weekend.